Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S, and welcome to the third and penultimate part of my ideas for empowering the African American community or the Black community generally, or whatever term you want to use, especially in America for February, and possibly also all around the world for Saturdays and that kind of thing. So um, I hope I don't forget anything because I do sometimes have memory problems. But I know, and sometimes I like things to be just so or work ideally. But anyway, I'll try not to waffle too much. I hope you'll get involved in the comment section and write up any thoughts you have, any ideas you have, and share any links for like projects run by Black people, which can be supported, like startups, SMEs, social media, content creators, influencers, and whatnot. Influencers, as they call them nowadays, content creators, or whatever term you want to use, or whatnot. Any projects basically that could be supported for the Black/African American community and that kind of thing. I would love to read those and find out about those links and support them. Anyway, these are ideas or pointers number 21 to 30, or thoughts, or whatever you call them. So here goes. So number 21, as I say, 21 again, to recap. For one thing, actually, on that note, I would love for people to find out about Black history and to study Black history and that kind of things. That kind of thing. As I often for Saturdays, I'm trying to think of things that begin with S. But also to recap some of the ideas and points and thoughts and whatever that I came up with in parts 1 and 2. I would love to support Black singers, songwriters, singer-songwriters, Black people in STEM, especially software development, cybersecurity. I know that doesn't begin with S, but sort of linked to software development and STEM and things like that, programming and coding. And again, I know they don't begin with S. I'm not that stupid, but anyway, or maybe I don't know. But anywho, but also startups, SMEs, and things like that. And again, I'd love to know any, as I asked before, I'd love to know any suggestions on how to empower the Black community and how allies such as myself can support the Black community, like especially other POC, but just generally allies who want to see a reduction in like the wealth gap, the racial wealth gap, and things like that, and just generally see Black people empowered, especially due to what they went through in history with slavery, colonialism, and all sorts of terrible things like that, where they were abused and tortured and all sorts of terrible things. Generally speaking, I love to help people who have been through bad things or oppressed, people who are suffering, people who have suffered and went through a lot. I love to help people to overcome, whether that's homeless people, disabled people, or any other people with disadvantage. Now, I don't want to say that all Black people are disempowered. Obviously, there's some success stories and things like that. I don't want it to be. I think when people talk about Africa, like a lot of people say, like they talk about it as one homogenous place, whereas it's a whole continent of 54 or 55 countries, and it's quite diverse. It's probably the most diverse continent, or certainly up there as one of the most diverse continents. And also, they talk about it as like they need help, and I don't want to see it that way. I hope it doesn't come across that way. I actually want to see what strengths the Black community has and how they can not be like victims necessarily, but be people who are empowered. So I don't like to talk too much about negative stuff, the negative side, and like to just, like people say when they talk about Black history, they only talk about slavery or negative things, but I want to talk about more positive things like celebrities, and again, success stories, startups, SMEs, and organizations which help them and that kind of thing. Anywho, moving on, I think I covered that point in enough detail, but if you have any comments or queries or whatever, please let me know. Number 22, looking to the future. Again, I mentioned about how I would love for potential investors to invest into the to the Black community, like Blackwater, BlackRock, Blackstone, possibly Bridgewater, if that's the right word. The company that was run by, or I don't know if it still is, but by Ray Dalio, and people like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett investing, and people like that investing in the Black community. But I know there's lots of conspiracy theories about at least some of those people, and also the Black community might not always trust. Again, conspiracy theories, I suppose, is where you don't always trust these people and institutions and whatnot. So I hope they will find a way to maybe work together as a community and appoint community leaders, which can help to ensure that they get good deals and ensure that if Blackwater, Blackstone, BlackRock, and others, Bridgewater, Cascade Investment, Berkshire Hathaway, and others invest in black-owned businesses and banks, startups, SMEs, and whatnot. That that the money that they do raise is actually used in a way which is going to benefit the black community in the longer term. As an anti-imperialist, I would love for black people not to join, or even people of colour not to join the military, and I don't encourage joining the military personally. I know it's a controversial idea, so please forgive me for those who might disagree, which is fair enough. I do believe in freedom of speech, freedom of expression, all that kind of thing, so please feel free to disagree with me on points I make. But I'm hoping by helping SMEs, by helping startups, SMEs, and that kind of thing, and empowering the black community, that they'll have other options. So some people were talking about like how the military might be a bit like the new McDonald's, where you don't have opportunities to get work. It's something which you can do where you really need work. But I'm hoping to help the black community to sort, as well as other minorities, perhaps even to find ways to not need to join or feel they need to join the military. On that note, I think it would be cool to see more black people in the police and in security services, but not going overseas to fight necessarily, but tackling potential risks and threats like cybercrime, terrorism, cyber terror included, and that kind of thing. And in doing so, if more black people are involved in the law, like as judges, solicitors, or lawyers, as they call them in America, or whatever, they could ensure that they get the rights that they need. Like if more black human rights lawyers, if there were more black human rights lawyers, they could help each other and make sure they get the rights that they need. 23, I hope to, as I say, support the most disadvantaged people. And again, I think it'd be cool to see more black people involved in law, whether that's the police, as judges, as solicitors, lawyers, whatever. Here in the UK, there's barristers as well and whatnot. It'd be cool to see more black people in those sorts of roles, so they can ensure that their people get access to the fair rights, not extra rights or whatever, but the fair rights, hopefully. So they get a fair trial and get treated the same as every other community, at least legally, and that kind of thing. I also hope to support things like where someone talked about like our Black Year, where they supported black businesses for a year and things like that. So I hope to connect black businesses with customers. Well, I hope to come up with ideas at least that people could utilize to connect customers with businesses and businesses with their customers, so that they learn about how to support each other and how to give those businesses, how they can give the right service to their customers, so that they can be empowered in business, and have the decent attitudes to attract business, and that kind of thing, which would be quite ironic considering I've never actually run a business myself. But I think it'd be cool if people could share those suggestions, like black people as customers. Obviously, everyone's going to be a customer of some sort, I imagine. So they could talk about like what black businesses could do better to serve their community, and how therefore they could get more custom, which would be mutually beneficial to the community, to the customers, and to the people who run the businesses and things like that. But again, I'd love to know what you think about those points and what are the best ways to empower the black community. And again, not seeing them as a victim, but seeing what they can do with their strengths, how they can utilize their strengths. Number 24, I'd love to have a black diaspora around the world that works together. And again, if there could be more black human rights lawyers, police, solicitors, judges, barristers, lawyers, or whatever term you want to use, basically black people involved in the law. I think here in the UK we call them solicitors, but in America they're called lawyers. But I don't know if I've heard it's an international term anyway, lawyer or solicitor or whatever. But yeah, I'd love to know what you think about that. And again, do you think more black people should join the police, and could they ensure that they get more rights if they unite? I think the biggest thing is to unite and support each other, because if they support each other, then especially like if they do get reparations, they could use it in ways that are going to benefit their community, rather than destroy it or weaken it even more. Or even destroy it, I should say, perhaps. But also, if they are united, then the police could work with members of their own community to build more trust between the black community and the police and things like that. Again, I'd love to know what you think about those points. And I think they should join the police instead of joining the military. So those who are thinking of joining the military, I think instead they should join the police. And those who, and also perhaps maybe some of them learn to become lawyers, human rights lawyers, especially judges, and that kind of thing, so they can give their own community more justice. Number 25. However, I would love to hear from alternative opinions. Obviously, some people might think that joining the military is a good thing, or I should be careful what I say about my anti-militarism sort of stance. And also, like, I'd love to hear from members of the black community who are like more right-wing or more left-wing, conservative members. Again, I know I've mentioned this point quite a few times, and like I've seen a few videos where there's like black Democrats debating with black Republicans and whatnot, and giving their sort of side of the story and why they think those things are the right thing. But yeah, hearing all sides, both or even all sides of the political spectrum. Sorry, I don't know very well at explaining things. But so, for instance, those who do agree with me that black people shouldn't join the military, or people of colour shouldn't join the military, and minorities, or even just generally, like people might say nowadays, all these wars that are going on. A lot of people, even white British people, or probably even white Americans, are saying that it's not a good idea to join the military. So it'll be interesting to hear different points of view. Like some people might say that they joined the military and it helped them with their career or whatever. But so hearing both sides of the spectrum, and some talking about why they should avoid those wars, especially if African Americans are not being treated, if black Americans or whatnot are not being treated as fairly as others, or as well as others, or whatever, not getting fair treatment, basically, to put it simply. And number 26, I'd love to, on that note, read and hear more from the black community about what they think about reparations. Again, both for all sides of the political divide or arguments, debates, really more than arguments. But sometimes I think we've got to agree to disagree. But it'll be interesting to read different points. I hope people won't be too rude if they do comment, if people ever do comment. But it'd be interesting to hear what people think about reparations. Like a lot of African Americans or members of the black community say they don't want reparations and feel that it's more like being a victim, or for whatever reason they disagree, or they might say it happened a long time ago, or we need to integrate more, or whatever. But I'd love to read both sides, as say, of the argument, or all sides of the argument, and all different sorts of points of view on things like reparations and how could reparations be used. I think, as I mentioned before, I think that, as I mentioned a bit earlier, I think that if you're not united, then reparations could be used to make things even worse or even destroy a community. So I think they'd have to appoint leaders which they could trust, which are unifying sort of characters who could ensure that they, as they unite and support each other, so that if they do get reparational money, they could support each other. But there are cases of reparations which have already happened, like for Japanese Americans, for Jewish people during the Holocaust, for other victims of things that happened, even Native Americans, for instance, who many might see are quite disempowered, so, and that kind of thing. So I think there is a strong argument for such. It's already kind of a precedented sort of thing. There's already a precedent for it. So I think since that is the case, then perhaps all groups that have been wronged, including the Irish and Indians and others, I mean Indians in Asia as well, could be reparated. But anyway, moving on, number 27, maybe in the future the black community could have a list of the top people who have supported and benefited their community. Number 28, as I say, I'd love to read any other comments people have, or any. So, for instance, any ideas you think I might have missed, or any sort of things that I could add to these sorts of ideas, or even from my ideas, how they could be developed. Again, how I could put them into practice, as I mentioned in part one, things like that. And number 29, how can other people of colour, including mixed race people like myself, be allies for the black community? And number 30, another of those I probably shouldn't say, but part of me thinks like this is a really controversial idea. I probably should have made this like adult, but I think God should allow black people to be like porn stars or gigolos or stuff like that, to sort of compensate them so they get double reparated for being colonized. But anyway, with that being said, peace and love. I'm out.